The House for an Art Lover. This work is spread out in the manner of a tapestry, giving spectators the impression that they are standing at the edge of a wood. The scenes depicted here represent the celebration of the senses when the fruit harvest is gathered at the end of summer. The wall on the left-hand side shows apple trees in blossom, followed by images of fruit gathering and cider pressing. The ceiling echoes this flowery scene. The wall on the right-hand side shows a female lute player, together with a woman dressed in an orange tunic, holding a glass of beer in her right hand and a jug in her left. Another woman, dressed in green, is seen dozing at the foot of a hop plant. Hop cones, which are harvested at the end of summer, are used both to brew beer and, at the same time, to relieve sadness. The dining room of the Kochi house was painted a deep red color. Built-in cabinets in the same color featured lilac glass doors and accents. A big window facing the courtyard was made of blush pink stained glass. All this was overpainted, destroyed, or otherwise changed by Lina Kautschi and her daughter after her husband's death. The showroom or sitting room features a mural with sentimental tokens, two hearts with the initials of husband and wife interlaced, and the year 1905, which is the date of completion of the house. The rest of the painting is adorned by grapes and pears, in lilac, yellow, and beige. In her home with lilac carpeted floors, typing something on her typewriter, in a 1910s outfit in the 1970s. Clarence Lispector writes about a typist. I see myself mirrored in the archive and in the library and in my grandma's house. The dwelling is adorned by a rose garden and walled off from the street. The garden reaches behind the house and ends with a mailbox. On my first day here, I buy a silk nightgown and hang it on the outside of my built-in wardrobe, dreaming of walking down the dark wooden central staircase, ending in a suspended gallery forming the upper landing. I set up the postcards I brought as decoration next to my window and sit and read Café du Rêve. Architecture and cityscapes. A mere description is writing, an observation of style. It has been a starting point, time again and again. Her heroine occupies a room painted purple with purple lyrics threads in the curtains and bedspread. Hotels belong not only to tourism and to aesthetics, but to language, with its revolving doors and dumb waiters, its metamorphic keys. Lillian's house was beautiful, lacquered, grown among the trees, and bore the mark of her handiwork all through, yet it did not seem to belong to her. She had painted, decorated, carved, arranged, selected, and most of it was made by her own hands, or refashioned, always touched or handled or improved by her, out of her very own activity and craftsmanship. Yet it did not become her house, and it did not have her face, her atmosphere. She always looked like a stranger in it. The great hall of the Palais Stoclet, view of the Fountain Bay window. Suzanne Stevens or Madame Stoclet sitting by the fountain in her home. She looks onto the water. Views of the Hotel van Eetvelde, decorated for the wedding of Edmund's daughter Germaine in 1912. The winter garden is bathed in velvet light of pink and green stained glass. The sun is setting in Brussels, standing on a rooftop, touching the stone sculptures on the very tip of the building. The palette he composed with wood from France and abroad resembles that of a painter. Oak, walnut, ash, elm, holly, plane, chestnut, cherry, pear, and beech provide the soft tones and the enveloping range of grays. They serve Mayuel in calm and deliberately monochrome compositions. Rosewood provides the delicate colors and patterns of the flower. The tender yellow lemon tree, the silver maple, the purple amaranth, dear to Crescent, the jacaranda wood, the red satin, the amoret, the orange clarimbo, the black or green ebony, the red or black palm, constituted for him, among the foreign essences, the most extensive colored swell where his painter instincts could flourish. Tea rooms in Glasgow and female designers. The ladies' rooms were a particular success, newly allowing respectable women to get out and meet together without male company. Unlike cafes or tea rooms in other cities, there was no intrusive supervision, and those having tea had an assortment of scones and cakes to hand. A bouffant is a type of puffy, rounded hairstyle, characterized by hair raised high on the head and usually covering the ears or hanging down on the sides. Hotel Dancart, also known as Villa Devon, was designed in 1922 by the Belgian architect Jean-Baptiste Devon for Jean Dancart, a Brussels industrial engineer. The adjacent building was later designed as his son's residence. There is no information on his wife, Marguerite Heloise Marie Quillet. The interior furnishings and decoration of the villa were developed by the famous Ateliers d'Art Décun. The old cherry tree is a catching point in the garden, and echoes the cherries represented in the stained glass windows of the villa. The backdrop with various species, linden, maples, Canada poplar, creates intimacy. The difference between a house and a palais is to be felt in the body. Interior spaces made for the individual are able to be navigated seamlessly, without fear. To navigate through a palace or courtyard is to move as a collective body through a large open space. The dining room door is adorned with opalescent glass whose tint changes according to the intensity and incidence of light. The large entrance makes way for the carriage. The entrance hall with its central staircase is adorned by the Pointe de Zo mural Reading in the Park, an autumn afternoon, which forms a window to the outside. The house is kept in jewel tones. The cloakroom features yellow shimmering glass with ribbed surfaces. It shimmers with a blue-tinted glow. Shades of blush pink, rich caramel hues, warm brownish tonality with horizontal light coming in. Sitting on carpets that shimmer from the light shining through the stained glass doors and sitting by the fountains sustained through immense wealth. Vintage lace gown with a rose satin ribbon delicately laid down in the dark wood cupboard or chamber in the room underneath the roof. Historically, some rooms in the house were fitted either for the public or the private sphere. The Hotel Sauvé is furnished with a winter garden laid out between rooms of the central staircase. Marble shelves featured exotic plants in the past. Brussels was constructing new parts of the city while Art Nouveau was fashionable. Industrialists came from the country to the city and built winter gardens in their homes. In the thermal baths of Wiesbaden, which were built between 1910 and 1913 in the Art Nouveau style, according to the design of the architect A.O. Two of the original hot air rooms, the Tepidarium and the Sudatorium, are lined with colored glazed tiles from the workshop of Henry van der Velde's pupil Josef Winecki and have been preserved in their original form. The blue and ochre-colored fountains feature a streamline wave design and seamlessly blend into the tiled walls, floors, and ceilings. The house incorporates different types of wood. Some reveal the family's ties to the Congo, where their wealth was extracted from: mahogany, belinga, okume, violet wood, ash, padauk, pitch pine. Roses and chestnuts, opalescent glass colored with metal oxides, cobalt, iron, manganese, copper. Maria Sete, a musician in her cottage. She was painted by van Rijsenberge in 1891, sitting at her harmonium. Seen from her profile, her updo hairstyle mirrors the snail embellishment on the head of the string instrument in the background. She made her first trip to London, where she came into contact with William Morris, John Ruskin, and the designers of the Liberty fabrics at the famous Liberty department store, housed in a Tudor-style building which would inspire the cottage Blumenwerf. She also immersed herself in the emerging arts and crafts movement. During a subsequent trip, she collected fabric samples and wallpaper patterns for her husband. Sete designed the flower garden and the wallpaper, among other things. Home staging. The role of Horta's first wife, drawing teacher Pauline Heyse, in his work. Heyse's jealousy of Horta's success led to their divorce. The woman on the right of de Freze is called Pauline Heyse, who married Victor Horta in 1881. At the time of the photograph, she had been sharing the sheets with de Freze for 10 years. Horta knew nothing at that time. As if possessed, he drew and redrew every detail down to the last curl for the stone masters or the blacksmiths. This is what you get when you want to become immortal as the Pope of Art Nouveau. That is also what you get when you deprive your young, graceful wife. It is said that Mrs. Heyse had other lovers. To them, history was only an intimation. Things were like palimpsests. They were sure that everything hinted at something transcendental. His wife, Suzanne Stevens, was the daughter of a Parisian art critic and collector and the niece of a painter. Through these connections to the art world, the Stocklets were introduced to the avant-garde art circles of Paris and Vienna. The wives of Stocklet and Van de Velde introduced them to the art world in Art Nouveau. Lina Cauchy and Marie Sete both designed together with their husbands. The Van de Velde villa, Blumenwerf, is overgrown as to hide the facade. From the back road, I can see its bright green moss garden reflecting in the sun. Des Bois de la Cambre is linked to the rest of the municipality by the Avenue Louise, which was built in 1861. At the same time, the park was laid out. The park forms a natural extension of the Saunian forest, which extends deep into the city in the southeast of Brussels. The forest. This no doubt explains why acorns and oak leaves were so often used to represent the De Kroon firm. Ending in his late Art Deco masterpiece, the Town Hall in Forêt, the district where he lived, built between 1925 and 1937, the Stocklet Palace's influence can be felt in all his buildings. Parks are associated with the wealthy because they moved to the city from spacious country homes and needed a place to enjoy their favorite pastime, walking. The decline of formal reception rooms and domestic architecture in the 20th century. Other reception rooms, such as a morning room, a 19th century designation for a sitting room, often with east-facing exposure, suited for daytime calls, or the middle-class lounge, a late 19th century designation for a room in which to relax. In 1865, an architectural manual in England defined drawing room in this way. This is the ladies' apartment, essentially being the modern form of the ladies' withdrawing room, otherwise the parlor or perfected chamber of medieval plan. If a morning room be not provided, it is properly the only sitting room of the family. In it, in any case, the ladies receive calls throughout the day, and the family and their guests assemble before dinner. After dinner, the ladies withdraw to it and are joined by the gentlemen for the evening. It is also the reception room for evening parties. There is only one kind of drawing room as regards purpose. There is little difference except in size and evidence of opulence between that of the Duchess and that of the simplest gentlewoman in the neighborhood. The villa moves closer. The perspective changes as I approach. I am greeted in the marble entrance hall with a metal radiator cover embellished with grapes and vines, cherry-stained glass window details, and an oak staircase. I'm walking on soft velvet carpet. A little tired, the groceries stretching out her new knit sack, she boarded the tram. She placed the bundle in her lap, and the tram began to move. She then settled back in her seat, trying to get comfortable, with a half-contented sigh. The tram went swaying along the tracks, heading down broad avenues. Soon a more humid breeze blew, announcing, more than the end of the afternoon, the end of the unstable hour. She breathed deeply, and a great acceptance gave her face a womanly air. The tram would slow, then come to a halt. There was no one in the garden. She put her packages on the ground, sat on a bench along a path, and stayed there a long while. The vastness seemed to calm her. The silence regulated her breathing. She was falling asleep inside herself. From where did that half-dream come that encircled her, like a drooning of bees and birds? Everything was strange, too gentle, too big. As you can see, there are no framed pictures on the walls here, and the environment is practically monochrome. In France, this type of room is known as a ladies' room, the idea being that it allowed their outfits to shine. Time moved abnormally in Hotel Woman. Several decades coexisted without quarreling. The typewriter is credited with assisting the entrance of women into the clerical workplace, as many were hired to operate the new devices. When Remington started marketing typewriters, the company assumed that the machine would not be used for composing, but for transcribing dictation, and that the person typing would be a woman. The 1800s Scholes and Glidden typewriter had floral ornamentation on the case. The Chicago Tribune in 1887 described ideal typewriter candidates as a lively and good-looking woman, 18 to 20 years old. The passage I stumbled on spoke of sacred time as architecture, not built of stone and mortar, but of ritual and attention.